Well, as an introduction, I can tell you my name is Maximo Alvarez. Everybody calls me Max. I came to this country at age 13. I'm an original member of the Pedro Pan group. Everybody calls it the Pedro Pans. And I was one of at least 14,000 kids who came from Cuba on a company. That became my family in the United States. We had the same standard of living as we enjoyed in the United States of America. And what I also remember, from one day to the next, everything changed. How do I describe Fidel Castro? The guy was brilliant, extremely intelligent, but he had to be possessed. Because what he did, how he influenced so many people with that ingrained hatred. I remember waking up by the sound of guns. And I remember looking out the window and people were in the streets. And I remember looking at TV and they were showing how they were burning different locations. This is January 1st. And everybody in the street celebrating because Batista had left. But soon after that, just within weeks or months, there's people holding back and being concerned because they started executing people. Those people who had anything to do with the government were being arrested, period. No questions asked. And then as time went by, I remember people were afraid to talk because they had set up on every street, just about in the neighborhood, in el barrio. They had set up with the Comité de Defensa, the defense committee, who's a family who lived there and was in charge to check everybody else, see if they were in favor of the government. So the Castro regime, the minute that they take over, they start eliminating all or everybody who is the enemy. The enemy means anybody who is not in their group. So if you work for the previous government, whether you were innocent or not, you were eliminated. So it got to the point that they were holding trials in groups. They were killing people that often. So now instead of having a trial of a single individual, they will try 20 people at the same time. They will go to court at 8 o'clock. They're found guilty at 9. At 10 o'clock, they're against the wall. So this is what the Castro regime is doing to Cuba. The Castro regime takes over January 1st, 1959, and I left July 4th, 1961. My mother took me to the ship about noontime on July 4th. I can tell you from the time I got on the ship, I had a suitcase. I put it in somewhere in the room, I guess. And then I went outside and I stood on that rail practically until I got to the United States. A little boy on the rail of a ship. And I remember vividly how as the ship leaves, comes around the bay, and the Moro Castle, it's in the corner. And I remember Cuba getting smaller and smaller until I saw no more. And when I arrived in the United States, I was 13 years old. I only had a small piece of luggage. I did not speak any English at all. I arrived in Miami. I don't know anybody. Somebody picks me up at the bus station. because I came from West Palm Beach to Miami in a Greyhound. Somebody picked me up there. I slept in a very small room with somebody that my family knew that they picked me up. And the next morning, I'm at the Jesus Church downtown to be written up to join the Peter Pan kids. And from there, then they took me to the camp, which is the middle of nowhere. Kendall is nowhere. I mean, remember vividly, and the doors open. A bunch of kids come in and start yelling, a new one, we have a new one, we have a new one. That I remember vividly. They took me into, it looks like a barracks, whatever. And they had a bunk bed. They said, this is your bed and this is your locker. And it was a double locker. And I remember vividly, I'll never forget this, when I was awakened, that somebody threw a bucket of water on me. That was a baptism. When I look back right now, that's my family in the United States of America. So, what is the Peter Pan? First of all, it's a blessing. To have met Monsignor Walsh, an Irish priest who was in charge of over 14,000 children without parents, who had the same values of my parents, I thought. And I lost one brother, and I gained 800. And the reason I say 800 because, the first group that I made was about 800. The 14,000 came, of which I don't know all of them, but I know quite a few of them. So, those are my real brothers. Monsignor Walsh, first thing I can tell you that he's a saint. If there's such a thing as a saint, a human being can be a saint. Monsignor Walsh would be one. The way I understand it, he was visiting Miami. He wasn't even in Miami. He was on his way to Puerto Rico because he had just been ordained a priest and he wanted to go to Puerto Rico to learn how to speak Spanish. So he's staying here while he's at the diocese. Somebody calls from Cuba and they say, we have a kid that needs to get out of here. He says the bishop is not here. So they call him later on and the bishop is not there. He cannot find him, so he says, send him over. So the next day about the same thing. And all of a sudden the bishop comes in and says, okay, you take care of these kids. And somehow or another, he negotiated with the State Department that with his signature, he could get a visa waiver. He would send visa waivers signed by him blank to Cuba. That program that lasted at least two and a half, 3 years, was in charge of about 14,000 kids. We were treated just like my family. My house parents would, we had study hours, we had to go to school, we had to do the bed, we had 3 meals a day. We were absolutely, this is the closest thing you can have compared to your home. It's called the American dream because it happens in America. It's the only country in the world that you can be free, that you can do whatever you want and have the opportunity, because we came from somewhere where that was not the case. We came from somewhere we were very oppressed. We came from somewhere that if you said the wrong thing, you die. Not only you come to a country that you can achieve your God-given potential, but you also have the generosity of everybody in this country who provides you the opportunity to reach that potential. That's the American dream. And this is why we need to protect it, make sure that the future generations enjoy the same dream that we enjoy, because it's a dream. We're in the 21st century. We can put a man on the moon. How can we not get along with our neighbor? And this is the difference between our culture our Judeo-Christian values and the communist philosophy.